Let me ask you a question. What if the very thing you've been chasing is what's keeping you from receiving what you truly desire? You see, we live in a world where people are not just looking for success, they're looking for status. They want the corner office, they want the car with the badge, they want the followers, the likes, the blue check mark, the applause, and I'm not saying those things are evil, I'm not saying they're bad. But I am saying they're hollow if that's the only thing you're living for. There's a difference between real success and perceived status. Status is how the world sees you. Success is how God sees you. Status is what they say about you when you walk in the room. Success is who you are when the lights go off and nobody's watching. And here's the kicker. When you chase status, you usually miss success. But when you walk in success, status eventually follows. And even if it doesn't, you won't care. Why? Because real success brings satisfaction. Status brings addiction. See, people don't realize that when they chase status, what they're really chasing is validation. Tell me I'm enough. Tell me I'm smart. Tell me I'm beautiful. Tell me I'm powerful. That's why social media has so many people twisted. They're measuring their value in pixels and praise. But let me ask you something deeper. What if you stopped needing their applause? What if you stopped craving their approval? What if you discovered that your worth was never up for debate? You'll find success when you stop looking for status, because success doesn't begin in public. It begins in private. It begins when you make a decision that your value is not determined by who claps for you, but by who created you. You see, people think success is what you have. No, success is who you become. It's who you become in the process. It's the character you build. It's the principles you live by. It's the legacy you leave. And if you're so obsessed with status, you'll be tempted to compromise all of that just to be seen. Let me tell you something powerful. Status is cheap. You can buy it, you can fake it, you can rent it, but success must be earned. Success comes through consistency, it comes through integrity, it comes through sacrifice. Anybody can look like a king online, but not everybody is building a kingdom offline. Some folks got crowns in their bios, but chaos in their hearts. You know what breaks my heart? People who are rich in attention but broke in identity. They've learned how to curate their image, but they've never cultivated their soul, and eventually it catches up. Because when you spend your whole life trying to be impressive, you end up being empty. You lose your joy, you lose your peace, you lose yourself. But when you stop chasing status, something shifts. You start pursuing purpose. You stop asking, how can I be seen? And you start asking, how can I serve? You stop thinking, how do I make them notice me? And start thinking, how do I make a difference? And that's where the magic happens. That's where God meets you. That's where success lives. Not in the spotlight, but in the assignment. Let me give you a truth that will liberate you. There is no amount of status that can fill a soul that was designed for purpose. And the longer you chase status, the further you drift from the call on your life. See, there's a reason why some people have everything the world says they should want and still feel like they're drowning. Because status is a mirage. It promises significance but delivers scarcity. It promises happiness but delivers hustle, and it will never, ever be enough. But when you pursue purpose, when you get clear on why you were born, who you were created to serve, and what problem you were designed to solve, everything changes. You stop needing the world to crown you because you realize you've already been called. You stop seeking permission and start walking in authority. You stop asking for approval and start operating in alignment. See, I believe that success is the natural byproduct of alignment. When you align your actions with your assignment, success flows. When you align your habits with your values, success flows. When you align your vision with your Creator's plan, success flows. But you can't be in alignment if you're constantly distracted by status. Because status will have you living a life that looks good to the world but feels wrong to your spirit. And I need you to hear me today. You don't need to be famous to be faithful. You don't need to be verified to be valuable. You don't need to be recognized to be relevant. You don't need their platform when you already have his promise. You are already enough. You are already called. You are already chosen. And the moment you stop striving for status is the moment you start walking in your true strength. Let me break it down even further. Success isn't loud. Success is quiet. It's the quiet decision to show up when no one's watching. It's the quiet discipline to keep your word to yourself. It's the quiet confidence that says, even if nobody claps, I'm still called to this. That's success. And over time, the quiet builds a foundation that the loud can never shake. You know what I've learned? The people who have the deepest roots often bear the greatest fruit, and roots grow underground, where no one sees them, where no one celebrates them. But they are essential, because without strong roots, the tree can't stand. Without deep roots, the fruit can't grow. And some of you have been so busy chasing status, you've forgotten to build roots. That's why you're tired. That's why you're burned out. That's why you feel empty. You've been trying to bear fruit without building depth. But when you stop chasing status, you get the space to grow. You stop performing and start planting. You stop rushing and start rooting. And guess what? When the storm comes, and it always comes, it's not the status that keeps you standing. It's the roots. Now, I'm not telling you to think small. I'm not telling you to hide your gifts. I'm not telling you to downplay your greatness. No, I'm telling you to build on something real. I'm telling you to pursue impact instead of image. I'm telling you to choose calling over clout. Because the people who change the world are not the ones who are most celebrated. They're the ones who are most committed. Let me tell you something powerful. Obscurity is not a punishment. It's a preparation. And some of you are in a season right now where you feel unseen. You feel overlooked, but you're not being buried. You're being planted. And if you'll stop chasing status long enough to stay planted, you'll grow. You'll thrive. You'll bear fruit in season, because real success takes time. It takes testing. It takes trials, but it's worth it. Oh, it's so worth it. I want you to get this deep in your spirit. You were not created to impress the world. You were created to impact it. You were not created to blend in. You were created to break through. And every second you spend trying to impress people who don't even know their own worth is a second you lose from your purpose. You weren't born to perform for strangers. You were born to build something eternal. And here's the beauty of it all. When you stop looking for status and start living in purpose, success finds you. The right doors open. The right people show up. The right opportunities align, because the universe and the creator of it is drawn to authenticity. Favor follows faithfulness, and fruit follows focus. So I challenge you today. Let go of the need to be seen. Let go of the addiction to approval. Let go of the pressure to perform, and step into the deeper truth of who you are. Step into your calling. Step into your destiny. Step into your God-given identity. Because everything you're chasing in status, you already have access to in purpose. You'll find success, not when you're crowned by the world, but when you're committed to your calling. You'll find success not when you get the attention, but when you give your assignment everything you've got. You'll find success not when you rise in status, but when you rise in spirit, in strength, in service, and in significance. And when you do, when you finally stop looking for status and start walking in truth, you won't have to beg for success to find you. It will chase you down, it will overtake you, it will bless you in ways you never imagined, because you'll no longer be living for people's approval. You'll be living for purpose, and that, my friend, is where real success lives. Now, let's talk about something people rarely want to address, the price, because everybody wants success, but not everybody wants the price that comes with it. See, status doesn't cost much. You can buy a new car on credit. You can rent an expensive suit, take a few pictures, post them online, and people will assume you've made it. You can edit your photos, filter your feed, stage your stories. Status is cheap because it's external. But real success, requires you to pay in a currency most people avoid: character, patience, pain, discipline, and delay. You don't get to sidestep the price tag of becoming. You don't become a person of excellence on accident. You don't build a legacy by shortcutting the process. You build it by walking through the fire and refusing to quit when quitting would be easier. There's something powerful that happens when you shift your focus from how you look to how you live. When you no longer care about impressing people, you become unstoppable, because now your decisions are no longer manipulated by insecurity. You're no longer investing time and energy in trying to look the part. You're becoming the part. And that authenticity, it's magnetic. The right people will be drawn to you, not because you're flashy, but because you're faithful. Not because you're popular, but because you're principled. Not because you're loud, but because you're living loud with purpose, with conviction, with clarity. You know what else is tragic? The number of people who delay starting their dream because they haven't been noticed yet. They're sitting on their gifts, sitting on their talents, sitting on their calling, all because the world hasn't given them a stage yet. But here's the truth. They're waiting for recognition before they move, when movement is what produces recognition. They want the reward before the work. They want the audience before the anointing, but you can't skip the silence. You can't bypass the process. You have to be faithful in the hidden place. That's where greatness is formed. That's where your capacity is expanded. That's where your roots dig deep. When you stop chasing status, you stop waiting for someone to give you permission to be who you already are. You stop needing the nod. You stop needing the spotlight. You stop needing the applause. You realize that your purpose didn't come from them, so your validation doesn't need to either. And in that realization, you begin to build. You begin to speak, you begin to act, and over time the fruit will speak for itself. You won't have to convince anybody. Your results will become undeniable. Your impact will be evident. I'll tell you something else that happens when you stop looking for status. You begin to experience joy, not happiness, the fleeting emotion that depends on things going your way. No, I'm talking about joy, the deep, unshakable sense of fulfillment that says, I'm doing what I was born to do. That's a joy no amount of status can offer. Because status is a roller coaster. One day they love you, the next day they cancel you. One day you're trending, the next day you're forgotten. But purpose doesn't expire. Purpose doesn't depend on opinion. Purpose doesn't fade with the algorithm. Purpose anchors you. Purpose fuels you. Purpose sustains you. People chase status because they think it leads to peace, but it doesn't. It leads to pressure. Pressure to keep performing. Pressure to stay relevant. Pressure to maintain the image. But real success, built on purpose, creates peace because you know who you are. You know whose you are. You know why you're here. And that clarity allows you to move with power. You're not tossed around by trends, you're not shaken by criticism, you're not tempted by every shiny opportunity. You know what you're building, and you're willing to say no to anything that distracts from the mission. And here's the truth that will set you free. When you stop looking for status, you stop competing with everybody else. You realize there's no competition in purpose. Nobody can beat you at being you. Nobody can outdo your destiny. Nobody can copy your anointing. And when you operate from that place, you celebrate others instead of comparing. You collaborate instead of compete. You honor instead of envy. And that posture, it accelerates your success. Because you're no longer wasting emotional energy on jealousy and insecurity, you're fully locked in on your lane. I want you to think about this deeply. What if all the energy you've been using to impress others was redirected to impact others? What if you stopped measuring your worth by your following and started measuring it by your faithfulness? What if your focus shifted from building fame to building fruit? That shift, right there, is what separates those who last from those who fade. Because status might get you a moment, but only substance will give you momentum. You know what else you gain when you stop looking for status, integrity, because status will tempt you to fake it. It will tempt you to lie, to exaggerate, to project an image that's not aligned with your identity. But when you commit to success through purpose, you commit to truth. You commit to showing up fully, flaws and all, and that authenticity builds trust. It builds relationships. It builds a legacy, because people may be attracted to your highlight reel, but they're transformed by your realness. And realness only comes when you stop posturing and start living. Now, I understand this isn't easy. I know the pull of status is strong. I know the pressure to look successful is intense, especially in a world that rewards optics more than outcomes. But you have to choose. You can't serve two masters. You can either serve your image or serve your impact. You can either chase likes or chase legacy. You can either live for attention or live for assignment. But you can't do both. One will always choke out the other. There's a generation rising up that's tired of the fake. They're tired of the facade. They're tired of the hustle culture that leaves you empty. And they're looking for something deeper. They're looking for people who live with conviction, who move with purpose, who walk in alignment. You can be one of those people. You can lead the way, but it starts with a decision to let go of status and embrace substance. It starts with saying, I don't need to be seen to be significant. I don't need to be known to be effective. I don't need to be celebrated to be valuable. Because here's what's true. Significance is not a result of success, it's the foundation of it. When you know you matter, you show up differently, you stop shrinking, you stop pretending, you stop hiding, you begin to move with boldness, and that boldness, that's what changes lives, that's what opens doors. That's what shifts atmospheres. Let me say this clearly, if you're waiting for the world to recognize you before you move, you'll be waiting forever. But if you decide to move now with what you have, from where you are, in alignment with your assignment, everything will begin to shift. The right connections will come, the right mentors will appear, the right resources will show up, not because you chased them, but because you attracted them through alignment. Alignment is magnetic. When your vision, your values, and your voice are in harmony, you can't help but attract the right opportunities. And that kind of success isn't built on smoke and mirrors. It's built on mission. That kind of success doesn't just bless you. It blesses everyone connected to you. Your children, your community, your legacy, that's the kind of success worth pursuing. Not the kind that fades when the spotlight dims, but the kind that multiplies across generations. Not the kind that inflates your ego, but the kind that ignites your impact. Not the kind that leaves you drained, but the kind that fills you up so much it overflows into everything you touch. So today, make the decision. Choose purpose over performance. Choose calling over clout. Choose fruit over followers. Choose legacy over likes, because when you stop looking for status, you start looking inward. You start listening upward. You start living outward, and that kind of life. That's a life that cannot be stopped. That's a life the world cannot ignore. That's a life that echoes in eternity. You'll find success not in being celebrated, but in being consistent. Not in impressing the world, but in investing in what matters. Not in rising above others, but in lifting others up. Because in the kingdom economy, the first shall be last, and the last shall be first. The servant is greater than the celebrity. The giver is greater than the getter. The one who sacrifices is greater than the one who shows off. So yes, you will find success, but you'll find it when you stop chasing what is shallow and start digging into what is solid. When you stop performing and start planting. When you stop craving attention and start creating transformation. Because success, real success, is not a destination. It's not a title. It's not a trophy. It's a posture. It's a position. It's a daily decision to walk in your purpose with passion, persistence, and power. And if you'll do that, if you'll truly surrender the need for status and anchor yourself in purpose, you'll step into a level of peace, productivity, and prosperity that status could never deliver. You won't just be successful in the eyes of people. You'll be successful in the eyes of God, and that, my friend, is the only success worth living for. And so here we are, at the end of this journey of words, but just the beginning of your journey of becoming. If you've heard nothing else I've said today, hear this. The status you've been chasing will never fill you because it was never meant to. You weren't created to chase the image. They already made you in the image. You weren't created to earn your worth. It was already spoken over you before you were born. You weren't created to climb for recognition. You were placed here for transformation. You will find success when you stop looking for status, because status is a shadow and success is the light. And once you walk in the light of who you really are, that shadow has no power over you. The applause can't control you. The silence can't intimidate you. The platforms can't define you. And when that shift happens, when you let go of the need to be somebody to them and start being obedient to him, everything changes. That's when the vision becomes clearer. That's when the steps get lighter. That's when your grind turns into grace, because now you're not just hustling, you're walking in harmony with your purpose. And when you do that, you can stand in rooms where nobody knows your name and still feel full. You can be hidden and still feel honored. You can be overlooked and still overflow with joy, because you'll finally understand that success isn't something you chase, it's something you become. And when you become it, when you embody it, when you breathe it, when you walk in it, you don't need a title, you don't need a stage, and you don't need permission. You just need alignment, obedience, and the courage to walk away from status and toward your assignment. So go build something that lasts. Go plant seeds that outlive you. Go serve people with everything you've got. Go be faithful in the quiet place, the hidden place, the place without a spotlight, and watch how heaven promotes what man can't even see. Watch how success chases down those who are too busy walking in purpose to chase after status, because you were never meant to fit into the mold of the world. You were meant to break it. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break through, and you were never meant to settle for status. When you were born for significance, now go live like it.